personality trait.
Yeah, and the other question is, what does it tell you about her as a person?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm okay with it. I'm just
okay?
saying I'm going to have to teach yeah.
Me too.
Yeah.
Personality. Enormous?
Sure.
Yes.
Yeah, I think that would be a good one.
Okay, we need another fairly long one. Fairly long.
What do you mean by long one?
Just a longer word.
Oh, it just has to be more than one syllable.
Professional learning communities are teachers coming together to learn, to plan, to collaborate, to make instruction for students better.
It's an opportunity for teachers to come together and to have conversations about what's really important for students to learn. And it's an opportunity for us to look at how our students are doing on those objectives and where we can go next.
Our team is probably an amazing team, really, but I mean, we have a first-year teacher, we have a second-year teacher, but they don't act like it. I mean, they are like incredibly knowledgeable, and they feel comfortable sharing. And I think part of that is the protocol that's been set up by our school so that everybody's voice is heard. And it's a growing experience for everybody.
Sometimes when you look at things by yourself, you kind of get kind of like a surface level of what you need to do, or you have your own understanding, but then when you listen to 4 or 5 other people and what they took away from what the kids need to know, it kind of adds these different layers onto what I need to teach. So it makes me go back and look at the things that I'm missing and I'm not teaching.
It has evolved. I think when we first started doing it, we spent a lot of our time just gathering and looking at our data. Now we're spending more of our time, we're still gathering the data, we're still looking at it, but we're spending more of that time using it, implementing instructional processes, learning new forms of instruction, figuring out where to go with it.
We show the data in a friendly way, where they can see that, well, by color specifically, so they see that's a mastered objective. This is where they were maybe in the yellow before, now they've moved into the green. We can show them individual graphs as well, and it's really the same thing that kids see too. So they can the kids are involved enough into it that they can explain it to their parents.
The very end of the year last year, we talked about monitor and clarify, because it's a really in the head thing. If you're monitoring what you're reading, which means are you understanding what you're reading, how do you show that outwardly? How can you really test that? So we had great conversations in our PLC about what are the look-fors in student work. And so we talked about having students stop and tell us what they've read so far, what they understand about the theme of the story, what they understand about the main idea so far, and in using a rubric that students could look at. And students could say, oh, okay, I'm at a 2 right now on monitoring for meaning because I'm not really sure what the main problem is in this story. So here are some strategies I can use to help me figure out that main problem. And so the students were able to assess themselves then even on their own when they went to their reading and say, oh, okay, I'm not understanding this story, so here are some things that I can do, like go back and reread. I can even write myself notes as I read, so I can just quickly look at my notes and remember what has happened so far. And that was really powerful for my ELL students.
Our last theme, the strategy was for kids to know the author's perspective and why, look at the details the author gives and determine how the author's feeling and why the author wrote what they wrote. And I've always had a progression of how I've taught that, but listening to my group and listening to the things that they were doing or they learned in some of the classes they took, I kind of went about it a different way. And so I taught author's perspective a little bit differently. And I think you kind of heard at one point someone said my test scores were better. Mine were too. All of my kids got either a 3 or 4 on their test in that particular part. And so that hasn't always been the case. And I would have stuck to my old routine of doing things if it wasn't for that discussion.
Probably we notice it because we know the scores are better. We just did a theme test recently and we all commented on how much better the students had performed than in prior years. So that's something we would notice. I think the kids don't have anything to compare to from one year to the next, so they don't know, but they know they're doing well. And then, of course, the parents know they're doing well, but they don't necessarily know why.
It's a growing process, and I think every year we grow more, and that the student involvement piece and the parent involvement piece is starting to really begin now. But I think our principal has made a difference by including, because I thought maybe this was all district-wide, but it's what he has done to encourage us to listen to each other, and the protocol that we use does that. And he knows where to find people to take leadership roles. That, for instance, the whole way that our PLC information is recorded now was developed by one of our teachers here. So he uses the expertise of other people, and I think that has moved our PLC along very well too.
It's made teaching more open so that it's not just me in my classroom anymore, and I'm the expert in my classroom, but now I see the impact other teachers are having teaching the same standard. So if someone else has had a lot of success teaching their student that standard, it's a perfect opportunity for me to say, what are you doing? How are you helping your students? And then, how can I do that same thing in my